Hi guys, in the wake of the leaks that came from the ex-QA tester at Treyarch that was fired about a week ago now, people have been discussing the fact that one of the things that came out of that conversation and that kind of information dump was a statement from the leaker that he had never tested, and I mean it made sense for him because he'd only been there 2 years, but he had never tested any kind of physical, doable Easter egg in Shadows of Evil that could have constituted the impossible Easter egg. And not only had he not ever tested that, but no one he worked with or knew had also tested that Easter egg. And that means that this impossible to solve Easter egg that Jason teased before Black Ops 3 even came out, so we're talking over 3 years ago now, that Easter egg could have never been there in the first place. Except, hold your horses, let's back things up a little bit and just take a deep breath and think about what other options that information could provide us with. As far as I'm concerned, the impossible Easter egg that Treyarch gave us in Black Ops 3, specifically in Shadows of Evil, was never, ever going to be an Easter egg that was like, shoot a certain thing, aim down sights with a certain thing, and then throw a grenade at a certain thing, and you get a reward. It was never going to be like that. Simply because Treyarch know full well that every single Easter egg of that nature ends up getting data mined. It doesn't matter if it's Black Ops 4, and they're hashing all their strings, and they've got more encryption than they've had in previous games. It doesn't matter if it's Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 2, it just does not matter. If there is an Easter egg that requires you to activate triggers in the game, that sort of thing will get data mined eventually. It just will. And I mean, you can see that as evidenced by Classified in Black Ops 4. Classified was being worked on by the community, and Porter ended up finding all the triggers in the map and then confirmed to people that there was not a remaining Easter egg for people to be doing involving triggers specifically. And that's why we then flipped over to doing it via high rounds and found the actual cutscene. So triggerable Easter eggs are never ever going to be the impossible ones. Treyarch know us better than that. So what else could it be? Well, it could be a cipher, right? It would make sense for Jason to give us a really difficult cipher that we just could not solve, and that would be a perfect, unsolvable Easter egg that a QA tester also would not ever have tested. And so it would check the boxes perfectly for something that would fit with this guy's statement about not having tested the egg, and it would be something that Jason could make so difficult if he wanted to, that it was actually mathematically impossible to solve. If he gave us a one-time pad, we would never get it. Straight up. And then it being an impossible Easter egg is just a factual statement, because sure, there might be a message in there, but it would be actually impossible to crack. You can't get around that sort of thing, no matter how smart you are. Like, to solve the egg, you'd have to basically break into Jason's laptop and see it written in an Excel spreadsheet or something. Like, it would be ridiculous. But we've solved all of the ciphers on Shadows of Evil, which kind of makes things a bit awkward, because if we've solved all the ciphers, it can't be a cipher, right? Well, it might be that there is something in-game that is a cipher, but that we don't even realize is a cipher. What do I mean by this? Well, there are things in the world of zombies that you can turn into messages that you don't even realize are messages in the first place. For example, in the Black Ops 4 map 9, there are those notes all over the place that say HIP and then some numbers. HIP numbers. HIP numbers. Those little individual lines are references to the Hipparcos astronomical catalogue, and you can basically use it to look up stars in the sky. Now, this is a very on-the-nose example because you're literally looking up the real night sky. You're not looking up the sky in-game. But what if, for example, there was an Easter egg where we had to connect certain stars in the sky without those physical scraps of paper, or maybe with physical scraps that were just much more ambiguous, and that would then read us out a message in the stars. Maybe, for example, we need to use Chang's laundry scrap, that laundry scrap that we get from the laundry shop right in the spawn area, you chuck your grenade, you get the laundry scrap, it says like Sal DeLuca signed on it at the bottom. We might be meant to read that in some way, read certain letters on there, maybe it's certain things that are underlined, or it's the capital letters or whatever, and we pluck some information from that we then use to look at certain other things on the map and then figure out a code. That would 100% fit the bill of being not a trigger, because we've already got the Sal laundry scrap Easter egg figured out, and that's not something that we need to find more triggers for, so that's fine. We've seen it, that's all good. And it is referred to as a cipher in the game code, so you'd expect there to be some kind of ciphered message hidden within that information, and that's something we still haven't figured out. I don't buy the 56 theory. And it also fits with the idea of it not being triggerable, because the thing that you're then finding is not a trigger. You're just looking at a certain set of bricks on the wall or something. Like, maybe you read from that laundry scrap and it says 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so you look at the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th bricks on a wall, and their shapes spells out something that you can then read as a sentence. Like, it's that kind of thing. Similarly, they could quite easily have an egg that is not just in a texture, as we would normally see, not in a single texture, but rather it's in a light pattern that is blinking somewhere, and that light pattern could be unique to that particular light, but we might never find it because we don't even know that that light blinking is something that is enciphered in the first place. We might just assume that it's random because it might not look like Morse code, but that blinking could be a separate other kind of alphabet, an other kind of cipher that we haven't even come across just yet, and that could sit there for years without us even paying any attention to it. A perfect example is the lights on all of the buildings in that map. There are lights in various places that do flash Morse code and say things like AIM and stuff like that. There's also stuff, I think, about like the diamond camo on the KN-44 flashing Morse code and saying the word time or something like that. I haven't looked into that one too much myself, but those have already been found, but there are other lights on the map that are still unexplained and that are very peculiar. So we could definitely be going in that direction as well. Let's now think about some other options for impossible Easter eggs, but in the context of the way Jason initially described it. He seemed, through the editing of that original post where he talked about this Easter egg, he seemed to be referencing different areas of the map. That's what he seemed to be doing. And so people were speculating you have to use the tram, people were speculating you have to look in certain kind of directions at things and stuff along those lines. Now, there are things in Shadows that are still very much unexplained to do with, like, vision and looking at things. I mean, we've got that AIM Morse code and all of those sorts of stuff. There's also a cipher that appears twice in the map. And it appears twice for no good reason. And Treyarch are aware of it because I've told them about it, but it has stayed there. And I can't help but feel like there is something in there related to that doubled cipher, the cipher that we've solved, but it's just the same scrap in two places. There's something related to that that we need to figure out. I just have a gut feeling that there is some reason why that is the case. And at the time, I remember people were speculating that you were meant to do the black and white Crocuta Easter egg. You would use that, and then people were saying you would like aim down sights with it in certain areas or like through certain windows. And then other people were saying that you needed to use that to aim down sights on the cipher scrap itself. It all got very confusing and none of it went anywhere, but that would have been a perfect opportunity for a really cool Easter egg if you had these two cipher scraps, but one of them was the same as another, and then you used some kind of item in the world to kind of transform one of those scraps into its true message as if it was masquerading as something else, similar to how we see the Shadow Man start off as being this kind of established old white dude, and then turning into that Apothicon envoy of the crazy alien race that's trying to suck up the entire universe. That could have been a really cool thing for them to do there, but as it stands, it went completely unexplained. The 56 thing before was an idea that was proposed like a year ago, and it was that you need to use that laundry scrap, you need to use that laundry scrap to basically fly above the map in a way that you can't do in theater mode. You have to actually mod your game to do it. And there's what looks like the numbers 56 written in bits of paper on one of the roofs behind the laundry shop. That 56 would then match the 56 on the scrap, and so it was like, okay, haha, Easter egg solved. But I just don't buy it. I just don't think that it would be something like that. I mean, to me, the scraps of newspaper on the roof don't really actually look like the numbers 56, and other areas of the map, I feel like, do look like that same kind of pattern that we see on that roof, just repeated again. So I don't know what to think there. My feeling, though, is that that is not the unsolvable Easter egg, but if I ever get a chance to talk to Jason again, I will happily ask him that question and see what he says. So I think it's clear from the things that I've discussed so far that the impossible Easter egg is not a lie. It's not that it's not in the game. It's just that the egg, as most people have expected for a while, is not a conventional Easter egg that would require a game tester to solve. We do not need to be super upset about this. We do not need to be angry or feel hard done by. It was always going to be like this. An impossible Easter egg was never going to be an Easter egg that was just hard to complete, right? Because then it's straight up not impossible. Treyarch know that we're much better at zombies than they are, and there aren't going to be any Easter eggs of that kind of difficulty. Instead, this egg is going to probably play with some of the ideas that I've talked about so far. Maybe it's a story thing. It could even be one of the things that we see, for example, on Der Eisendrache, where Treyarch give us a load of building blocks of mythology, and they ask us to basically infer things in a kind of symbological manner. It's almost like you're back in English GCSE class, right? You're taking AP English, or whatever it is in the United States. I don't know how the system works over there. But you're sitting down and your teacher's like, right, tell me what John Steinbeck says in the Zombies comic on page 50, and tell me how that relates to what Arthur Miller says on page 20. Like, you get all those situations where you're having to infer things and make connections and links where you feel like initially there weren't even any connections and links in the first place. Treyarch could be doing exactly that with Shadows of Evil, and that could well be the impossible Easter egg. And we might never know, because it's one of those eggs that's up to interpretation. And this is something that I've asked Jason about before, and we've talked about it, and he says that he's got Easter eggs that he feels are doable, and they give you a reward in-game, but there are definitely eggs that he puts in-game, like, for example, the Raven in Der Eisen, which aren't going to necessarily go anywhere in terms of triggers, but they are a learning experience for us. They convey a message, and it's our job to try and understand that message and understand how Treyarch are articulating it. And it won't ever go anywhere, and it won't ever be confirmed, and you therefore can't ever really get it right or solve it because it's a matter of interpretation. So it could well be something in that vein as well. Anyway, I just wanted to do a video on this because I haven't talked about this impossible Easter egg in a long time, but people were clearly still interested in it in the Reddit thread where the leaker, was talking about all these sorts of things, and so I figured I would do an update video talking about what kind of progress we have with the impossible Easter egg so far. This is the current impossible Easter egg kind of list of things that we have looked at, investigated, etc. Let me know if you have any thoughts for how to solve it, of course, but for now, I would really stress that I think that this is going to be an egg of interpretation as opposed to an egg of in-game reward. Hopefully that makes sense. Treyarch didn't lie to us about it not being in the game or anything crazy like that. It's just not the sort of egg that some people were expecting. I've been MrRoflWaffles, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you have. If you haven't, let me know why in the comment section down below, and as always, I will see you next time in more Black Ops 4 Zombies videos. Once again, I'm wearing this shirt today because I recorded all these videos in one day in a bulk batch go because I'm at JC's and Noah's right now relaxing and taking some time away from Black Ops 4 because it was driving me insane and really just making me sad. So, I'll be back very soon. Thanks for watching and sticking with the channel. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.